for you on radio, television and online across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening from the GB Newsroom. I'm Tamsin Robert with the latest. A 16-year-old boy has been arrested in connection with the murders of two 16-year-olds in London. Kanye Solanke and Charlie Bortolo were both stabbed to death yesterday afternoon, just a mile apart in south-east London. That news just in, an arrest of a 16-year-old boy. The online safety bill will be updated next month to criminalise the encouragement of self-harm. The changes have been influenced by the case of 14-year-old Molly Russell, who ended her life in 2017 after viewing harmful content on social media. The new bill will make it illegal for online material to encourage self-harm. Social media platforms will be required to remove such content or face prosecution. The Business Secretary has warned energy firms to not hike customers' direct debit payments amid the rising cost of living. In an open letter to energy bosses, Grant Shapps says he was disturbed of reports that some customers' direct debits are rising when they're making huge efforts to save money. Mr Shapps has also asked energy regulator Ofgem to look at how suppliers can make their billing more responsive to consumer behaviour. A man stabbed to death in south-west London has been named as 31-year-old Reece Newcombe. He's believed to have been stabbed with a piece of broken glass during a fight on Richmond Bridge yesterday. No arrests have been made, with police appealing to the public for information. At least 7 people, including a newborn baby and 2 children, have died after a landslide in Italy yesterday. The island of Ischia near Naples was engulfed by heavy rain, causing a mudslide that flooded homes and swept away cars. Search and rescue operations are continuing and at least 5 people are still missing. More than 200 people living close to the area have been evacuated. Matt Hancock has finished 3rd on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, with retired England footballer Jill Scott being crowned Queen of the Jungle. The former Health Secretary was among 3 finalists, including Hollyoaks actor Owen Warner. Speaking with presenters Anton Deck, the West Suffolk MP recognised that appearing on the show was controversial. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to headliners and Mark.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's papers. As always, in the company of 2 top comedians, and tonight it's quite literally a Marks and Spencer's panel, because we have comedians Kerry Marks and
so unnecessary, so bad, so bad to start a show with.
That took hours to come.
Yeah,
up.
I think that's brilliant.
You're a very proud man. For
I'm
a
very
reason.
proud indeed. I've got low standards. I hope to fall below them tonight. Let's take a look at tomorrow's front pages. And we start with the Daily we've got the Mail. OK, let me gather up the Mail here. And the Mail lead with the following. Fury over Starmer class war on private schools. Telegraph next. Chinese protesters call for President Xi to resign. Also, more than 2,000 NHS bosses earning 6-figure salaries. What's next? We've got the I newspaper, and they lead with Sunak losing control as Tory rebellions grow. The Guardian next. The price of Brexit, 4,000 fewer European doctors work in the NHS. OK, got the FT now. China rocked by protests as anger spreads over zero-COVID lockdowns. The Times next. Army to rescue the strike-hit NHS, and China protest biggest since Tiananmen Square. Daily Express, radical new plan to boost NHS and save lives. And finishing on the Metro, the Great Brawl of China. Protesters call for President Xi to resign over his strict COVID curbs. And those are your front pages. We begin with the Telegraph and the ongoing protests in China. Carey, tell me more.
Yeah, we've got that at the front of the Guardian as well. And major story is the protests erupting in China as a backlash against the zero COVID policy of, and you said a moment ago, Xi Jinping, I think, which I looked it up on Google today to get the right pronunciation, and it's actually Xi Jinping. Did you know that? She, yeah,
well, that's
he's a she, very
isn't it?
much for the modern age. So, and she is causing all these problems. What's happened is we're seeing eruptions of people standing against authority now, like in Iran. So it's getting quite interesting. And China has kept this zero COVID policy. So it starts off, it's almost like China is behaving like a stroppy teenager. You know, it started off with them denying there was any kind of disease because that would make China look bad. And then it was, yes, we've got a disease, but hey, look, we can lock down completely. Whilst all the Western countries were struggling, and there was a while of showing off about look at us, and that committed them to a zero COVID policy, which now they've got to keep up. So, and this is in deference to the amount of money they're losing through industry, as everyone's just not working, and it's led to a fire recently, and people dying because there was no way they could get help. And
all the doors on the outside of the building were locked in order to stop the virus spreading, and they perished in the building. 9 deaths.
But it's also through pride. They've been using a weak vaccine that hasn't really been working as well, and they've gone through all the embarrassment, pride, and now it's overcompensating. Yeah, it's a mess. Really.
It is a real mess. And of course, the issue is that because of their strict zero COVID policy, Diane, there isn't immunity in the population. So I guess if the virus were to rip, it would be a big headache for them.
Massive headache. I mean, I've had COVID twice. I think
Show off. Yeah, look at you.
Thank you. I mean, the second album
tough.
was a little tricky.
You've got the immune system of an ox, haven't you?
Is that a compliment?
Yes.
I think, OK, sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
The rest
and
of
the leg hair.
The rest
so,
of you is...
Tell us more.
This will be... They haven't got any immunity. And I actually saw a Chinese man, and he was doing this protest to the video saying, what, have we got weak immune systems? Why are we not being allowed to get this virus, get it, and then move on with our lives? And it's coming at a very interesting time because obviously Xi Jinping has become the everlasting leader of China forevermore. He did that very public dragging out from of Hu Jintao, the ex-leader, where he was not feeling well and he was removed publicly.
Which is what my wife says when she picks me up from my local.
That you are not feeling well.
11:30. Drinking up time. You've had enough.
So China is already in a very interesting position, and their property market is falling through the roof, and the banks are going bankrupt. It's not a great time to invest in China at all. It's in a really kind of tricky state, and on top of this, they're just locking down their citizens. But to see this amount of public protest, and that we've seen it all the way over here in the West, is incredible, because normally, like, this would be so severely repressed, we wouldn't even get it like a whiff of it, you know what I mean? But we've seen it everywhere.
Yeah, we are seeing it. And also they've set up officers, like local officers from the public, to police all of this. So now they've got a whole new network of kind of stand-in police, which will add to the power that the Chinese government have got. So.
Like PCSOs.
Tiny, kind of, yeah.
It's almost like they won't lift those levers of control when the pandemic's over.
No, that's not going to happen.
We move on to The Guardian, and Diane, I'm very surprised about this, but The Guardian are not happy with Brexit.
What?
They're normally such cheerleaders for our departure from the EU.
They're quite a chirpy group. So The Guardian are going with the price of Brexit, 4,000 fewer European doctors work in the NHS. And they couldn't put 4,000 less European doctors, because that would mean that you have 4,000 doctors who have all got skinny.
That's a good point. You studied hard at English GCSE, didn't you?
I know the difference between my fewer and my lesser with their words, and they're both good words in the right wording. So this is all to do with the price of Brexit, and they're saying that we're having, again, it's all to do with brain drain and migration and people moving, and it's not easy to move. And I mean, I was more interested in the other part of The Guardian about George Takei, the Star Trek guy, because he's on the front page of The Guardian as well. And he's doing this ever such an interesting play. Can I talk about that just briefly?
Please do.
Well, I know it's...
Legendary Star Trek actor, amazingly 85 years of age.
Yes, he's 85 years old. But when he was younger, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, 120,000 Americans were just scooped up, Japanese Americans, and put into internment camps in America. And he's written this whole story about it and about his life. And when they left the internment camp 4 years later, their house had been repossessed by the American government and all their stuff had been taken, and they were Japanese Americans. But
right.
Isn't that crazy? Like, because you'd associate that with China.
Correct.
But you wouldn't associate it with America, but they did that. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I know I was supposed to talk about the doctors, but I found George
I don't think
Takei...
there's a rule. I think you can do what you like there. You did. So
Exactly right. Listen, lots of stories are popping out of the front pages. Let's have a look at the Daily Mail now. And Keir Starmer looks at taxing private schools, Kerry.
Yes, he does. He's planning... he's facing a backlash, would you believe? Everyone's having backlashes at the moment. The plans for a 20% VAT hike on... I don't think you ever do get a front lash.
I think you have to pay for a front lash.
I think you have to work on that one, yeah. Nothing's for free.
No way.
No. Schools can claim the status in return for acts that benefit the local community, such as sharing their facilities with neighbouring state schools. But this is all going to change with the VAT. You know more about this, don't you? And probably something to do with George Takei?
No, it's not. No, George isn't involved in this, though he could be. So, essentially, Keir Starmer wants to stop private schools from having this charitable status, which means that 20%, the VAT, which would go on the service that they're offering, the teaching, would be charged to the parents. But, of course, if you add 20% to the private school fees, then they become, obviously, 20% more expensive. And so it actually forces the number of people who can attend it down, because now it's really the only upper rich people who can go. So by trying to do this, he's actually going to create a gap.
It seems like an odd thing for him to do, though. What votes is he attracting with doing that?
I have no idea.
Well, I wonder if it's a good headline. It looks like, you know, I'm basically speaking up for, you know, man of the people, basically.
But he's
not, though. He's going against the people, surely, as you say. And I mean, personally, I don't see why everyone can't just go to a comprehensive school. I did. It did nothing for me. But I don't see why that can't work for everyone.
Mean, you are an intellectual
colossus. No, I came out a total idiot. But, you know, idiots are actually cleverer than geniuses.
Yeah, because...
That's something I believe.
Yeah, but also you have to make things idiot-proof. Yes. And, like, you can have loads of geniuses. It takes, like, 100 geniuses to make one thing.
That's a fact.
But it only takes, like, one idiot to break it.
Well, that's right. There's that scene.
Right?
Yeah, well ahead of the game.
That scene in Woody Allen's Manhattan when his girlfriend says, oh, my friend Steve's a genius, my friend Bob's a genius, and the Woody character says, you know, a lot of geniuses, you should hang out with an idiot, you might learn something. And that's why we've got two tonight. Shall I make it three? I should include myself. I'm not, but it's nice to be humble.
Modest. Yes.
Let's have a look now at our next story. And this one is an absolute corker. Front page of The Eye. And is it the final countdown for Rishi? Diane, what's happening?
Oh, my gosh. It's like the second that Rishi became Prime Minister, it's like he just got in a shopping trolley and just tried to go down a hill in it. It's just going all over the place. It's alarming. So he is facing real danger as loads of Conservatives are just cancelling their membership. They're dropping out of the race. They're leaving the party altogether. And this particular thing is to do with wind farms.
Right.
Rishi basically doesn't like wind farms or onshore wind farms. And everybody said, but why not? That's a pretty good idea. We're quite a windy place. It's better than using the gas from over in Russia. So let's not do that. So a lot of people have been against it. Boris Johnson has been stirring the pot. He's been around...
Very out of character.
I know, isn't it?
I thought he was such a team player.
He's such an upfront kind of guy. He's always so honest, but he's been, like, in the background going, well, I think that wind farms are very good. And so there's this, like, rebellion building against Rishi, but also Rishi's done other things that people just don't like. Like he said, I'm sorry, 19% pay increase for nurses, forget it. And although that is logical... people don't like to hear it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And his housing targets as well, which I think is now coming out. Everyone's getting instructions to make a tent rather than the original plan. So the crackdown on overseas students. There's a logjam going on with the politicians right now, and a logjam is the worst kind of jam, I think, if you've ever tried spreading it. Log on toast, awful. It's odd, isn't it? It's something we see in American politics, and it's happening here now. He can't do anything. There's nothing exciting that he can put on the table. So he's trying really quite small policies that are being blocked. And Starmer at the moment, in comparison, looks like he's really got his act together. You know, he's got policies going out, and he's got and no one's rebelling against him. So he's in a very solid position right now.
Well,
but I don't know. Rishi's coming. What I think has happened is the Tories are right now are like a wild animal that's tasted blood.
Yeah.
You know, they're dangerous. They know how to get a prime minister out fast, and that's what they're doing. So anything he does, everyone's got a knife.
Yeah. Or it's also like, both of you are veterans of the comedy circuit, it's like when the crowd draw blood. When they spot
always
weakness
dangerous
in the performer. Do you know, Diane, what the background to this wind farm boycott is? Is it to do with local objections and Tory constituencies not wanting wind turbines?
It could very well be the whole NIMBY idea, that there's a bunch of people who say, oh no, it'll spoil the view, but...
And they might be Tory voters.
Well, yeah, I mean, because quite often I think it's a lot of the Tory constituencies that are by the seaside and so will be affected by the onshore wind farms. But, I mean, kind of you could have that. You could have a nice nuclear power plant. I mean... A
nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want a horrible one.
No.
You want a very nice, a pretty one, maybe.
Art
Nice
Deco.
colours.
Could you have an Art Deco nuclear power plant?
Yeah.
Let's think big.
Or could it not be a nuclear power plant / a Tesco Extra?
Oh, I love it, yes.
Because who doesn't enjoy a Tesco Extra? That's a supermarket where you can buy bread, eggs, milk and a flat screen telly.
No, we need a Lidl.
Bluetooth headphones.
We need a Lidl.
And children's clothes.
As well.
A big Lidl.
Yeah.
With the what is
If you
that
have
aisle?
a big little,
What
isn't that a contradiction?
Yeah, well...
Like a little big.
Speak to my urologist. What is that aisle called in Lidl that's got sort of...
The everything aisle.
Is that the one? Yeah.
The fun aisle.
That's eclectic at best, isn't it?
Yes. The can't go wrong aisle.
Yeah, you can buy...
You will find something. If you can't find something, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Exactly right. A pair of galoshes, a windproof fleece.
Scuba tank.
That would do it. Scuba tank. Essential. Well, look, that's it for part one. Lots more to come, including a mystery virus, what could possibly go wrong, a mass exodus of the young, and Kim Jong-un's lovely daughter. See you shortly.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you know, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak.
Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narinda.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
I'm Mark Dolan. This is Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's papers. Tonight, helping me do just that are the brilliantly talented comedians Carey Marks and Diane Spencer. Let's have a look now at the Telegraph, and it seems young Britons have had enough. Carey.
High taxes and no future spark fears of mass exodus of young Britons. Scores of highly skilled workers may soon wonder if they would be better off elsewhere. So our skill set is leaving, apparently. This is painting a picture that we're basically about to sort of swap with Albania. You know, we'll be the ones losing all our talent. It's similar to the story before we had about the doctors not coming into the country and our doctors now leaving the country, which I don't know why we can't just attract them with whatever doctors like. Patients? No, they don't like patients, do they? Golf? Yeah, we'll give them golf clubs.
They like golf.
Come to England, be a doctor, you get a golf club. It's a very good idea.
They like
it's a better idea than anything
white
here.
jackets, don't they? Stethoscopes, they're big fans of.
Do they really like the stethoscopes? Or this... Just for a while, they liked wearing masks. It made them feel important, but then everyone started doing it. It's kind of taking the edge off it.
Yeah, exactly.
This one is...
and everyone can get drugs these days.
Yeah, we're hearing from a woman called Rachel, not her surname. Oh, that's what it says here. That's a weird surname, isn't it?
It's not Rachel
not her
Clark,
surname.
is it?
They're not giving her real name. She lives in Cooktown, the coastal town, 4 hours north of Cairns. So she's saying that abroad she can get free accommodation and you know, these nice rural areas, and she should go and be an Aussian, shouldn't she? Really?
Well,
That's what she wants, but, you know... go and join the... I mean, Oz is going to be a nice place. It's full of happy, grinning idiots with skin cancer.
You've travelled the world as a comedian. If you had to emigrate, where would you get,
I think
Carey?
it's ridiculous, all these people just leaving this country and going to Oz. I'm going to Oz very soon. How did you know this?
Yeah, I'm
going to Oz for a few months now. Yeah, January till April.
But would you stay there? I mean, if things
I'm
really...
going as part of their brain drain of England.
You most certainly are.
Yeah.
Well, would you stay in Australia? Where would you go if you had to leave here?
I wouldn't actually. No, I'm a Londoner and British, and I'll be here mostly because the climate is right for me. I'm a snowman at heart. I can't really handle the heat out there, and I don't get the attraction of all the dangerous everything that they have.
Yeah,
like everything can kill you there. Like everything.
Well, that's Australia: spiders, snakes.
Yeah.
And then I heard about Florida, which I quite like because I think it's the freest place in America. But then they have alligators.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that this article deals with how, we're going to have this massive brain drain from the UK to Australia, and it sort of details this and other countries. But if you think about it, about sort of 200-odd years ago, 220-odd years ago, UK sent all of the convicts to Australia, right? So hold that in your thought. So now my question is, what is Rwanda going to be like in 200 years' time? Is that going to be the hot place to go?
Yeah.
Right?
Now you're talking.
So this is how we create future holiday destinations.
What we do is...
Yeah. Very good plan.
And what's
You really
lovely
thought
is
this
the
through.
government will fly you there free of charge.
You fly you there free of charge, and then in 200 years, suddenly we'll have a brain drain that way.
Now you're talking. Problem solved. The woman's a genius. Put her in charge. Let's go to the newspaper now, and the government is rejecting a national inquiry into workplace misogyny and racism following the London Fire Brigade scandal. Diane, tell me more.
Are we going to let a girl cover this?
Well, I don't know if she can handle it.
Yeah, all right.
Whoops! Paper. So, Mr. Afzal has called for a national inquiry into other public bodies after his London Fire Brigade discoveries, saying that, he's been approached by people who work in the NHS, the BBC, the military and the police who have similar concerns about misogyny and racism. I mean, we keep hearing about all of these different bodies in the news anyway, so I wasn't exactly surprised when I read this. And some would say that it's sort of ingrained into the system as a whole. But him calling for an inquiry is kind of like saying, and maybe we should put warning, contents should be hot on coffee cups. It's kind of, we already know that sadly it's there. And so the Transport Secretary, Mark Harper, has said, we can't put inquiries into everything. We need to have specific events to trigger it, you know. But at the same time, where is this coming from? Because when I was younger, there was a lot of talk about sexism and racism. There was a lot of talk about that. And what confuses me a bit is how it's 30 years ahead in the future and it's still happening. I'm genuinely a bit, like, surprised. So clearly there are people who perpetuate this, and clearly somehow it's so endemic in our culture that it is in all these different places. But it needs to start at home. It needs to start in social interactions, and it needs to start with people saying, like, calling out when they find something inappropriate. Like, that's where it needs to start.
Well, Kerry, I think it starts
Don't look
with
at
you
me.
saying sorry to everyone.
Yeah, everything. I told you knew too much.
I mean, you've made a lot of cheap remarks about my body over the years.
I have. And I'm saving some for the end of the show, so do hang on. That's all coming up soon. This started. You're right as well, because they're saying this is a pandemic going on. The actual words being used here. Pandemic is everything, as if it hasn't been that way. What it is, people are now looking into things that have been that way the whole of human nature, and this starts with an investigation with the fire service, which it is a problem. It's showing there's a lot of sexism and racism, and who knew in the fire service? Never would have expected that.
It's a bit weird because they've been stripping for years.
Yeah, I know.
So,
they're wearing those outfits.
Equal opportunities.
Yeah, they were always like on stage dancing and taking their clothes off. So I'm surprised that they've been so dismissive towards
Well, I suppose
women.
it's these closed institutions, isn't it? Where you've got people sort of working in close proximity with a strong hierarchy, and those who are victims of racism or misogyny are not able to speak out, perhaps, Kerry.
I've never been in that position myself, but obviously in the fire brigade you're going to get mostly men, and to be the one woman in that group or a couple of women is going to be difficult. And I would imagine, I don't know what it attracts, but there's incidents here like a black firefighter being subjected to racist bullying and having a noose put above his locker. That's pretty disgraceful, would you not say? I think that's going a bit far. A Muslim firefighter who someone put bacon and sausages in his coat pockets. That's not joking around, is it? That's just something a bit nasty. And I say to the fire service, get your act together.
Yeah,
really. We're not having it.
That sounds to me like sackable offence territory. Let's have a look now at the Times and troubling news from hotels accommodating migrants. Kerry, what have we got?
It just doesn't get better for migrants, does it? I mean, they're really hoping for some good migrant news at some point. And migrant doesn't even sound like a nice word, does it? It's not even like you're a migrant.
No, it's like foreigner, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got that ignorant feeling to it, migrant. But anyway, they're now, as well as causing all the other problems which they're being blamed for, they're also diseased. This is... infectious migrants will be told to isolate in hotel rooms. So they're being asked to isolate, and they'll get room service, which is pretty nice, really. They'll be provided with meals in their rooms with their own individual crockery, utensils, linen. And I don't know why they're going into details here, like exactly what kind of room service they're going to get.
But, tea and coffee making facilities?
Yeah, they get everything, yes.
Do not disturb
a teaspoon
sign?
To stir it with. No, it's not mentioned here. They don't get a do not disturb sign.
You're a fan of the do not disturb sign?
I've got a collection of them.
Is that right?
Yeah, for a while I used to go around hotel. When I was in a hotel, I'd take my do not disturb sign with me because I was living in a house that was full of other comedians at one point. So I put them all on my room, and I had I think about 50 or 60 of them all on my room from different hotels. Some of them are great, and some of them are just really rubbish. So
nice collection.
You get a good chance to compare them. It kept people out my room.
I bet.
I know. Couldn't be more private than that.
At your own expense, I would have thought.
It says Mark Harper, the Transport Secretary, said all those with known cases of diphtheria already had the disease when they entered the UK. And then he surely went on to say, why am I involved? I'm the Transport Secretary. This has nothing to do with me. But he didn't say that.
No, but that was the subtext. The Mirror now, and Kim Jong-un is continuing to parade his daughter and possible successor, Diane.
Yeah, this would have been a fun take your daughter to work day. So Kim Jong-un took his daughter to meet the missile scientists. Isn't that fun? So her name is Kim Yoo-ae, and she's learning all of Daddy's top tricks like, cybercrime, how to assassinate your uncle, doing all of that stuff. I mean, it's...
Uncles are annoying. I mean, let's...
Yeah, they can be, yeah. So I guess, but they did a... She took her to see a test launch of the new intercontinental ballistic missile.
It's very sweet father and daughter bonding, really, isn't it?
Very cute.
How lovely.
Correct.
But I do feel sorry.
It's a rite of passage, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a sort of the North Korean equivalent to Chessington World of Adventures.
I do feel sorry for the scientists and the soldiers who had to meet the boss's daughter. Because, it's one hand, it's on one thing where you've got to meet, like, your boss's kids and they're a bit snotty and you're like, eh. But on the other hand, meeting your dictator's daughter and you know that if you just look at her funny, you're going to end up in a camp.
You can't behave like a British fireman.
You definitely
not
can't.
around Kim Jong-un's. Well, Kim Jong-un, he's a wrong un, isn't he, of the uns?
You can't be honest about... Because not everyone's kid is cute, right? And if you're one of these dignitaries and you meet Kim Jong-un's daughter, you can't say, has she always looked like that? Is that...
No, you've got to be very, very
is there
charming
anything wrong
indeed.
with her? Yeah. But the thing is, do we know her age, this girl?
Yeah, she's aged 10.
Right.
We don't know his age. He's kept that quiet, so we don't know very much about him. But she's 10. He calls it his most beloved or precious child. I think that's what this story is about mostly. And it's a father having a favourite. That's not okay, is it?
Yeah, but the thing is...
Might be the least of his crimes.
When you get a new... a new Kim, a new dictator in Korea, then the legends have to build up around them.
Right.
So, then now the stories will start building up around her, that probably when she was 4, she wrote her first violin symphony, and all of this stuff is
Rode on a cloud and things like that. It's always really spectacular, isn't it?
And she will have spoken to the scientists, and she would have understood all about the trajectory of a ballistic missile, and she will have this amazing intelligence that's come from
She pointed at this nuclear warhead and said, "You've missed a bit."
Yeah, you got it. That's what she's doing, and that's what they're setting her up to do.
He's mad, though, isn't he, Kim Jong-un? I mean, he's completely insane.
I find him quite sensible compared to Joe Biden and Rishi Sunak and some of the others. Emmanuel Macron. No, listen, I mean...
He had plastic surgery to look like his grandfather.
Yeah.
His hair is one of... his hairstyle is one of 28 hairstyles that are allowed.
Yes.
And he's got a name for it. It's called Ambitious. That's the name of his hair. Which, I don't know if you have a name for your hairstyle, which I...
unacceptable, I believe.
Better take it as it is.
But what about this Kim Jong-un? Exactly, he's clearly one Twix short of a twin pack.
No, I think he's quite a wily character.
Really?
Yeah, I really do. And I think despite the fact that he's inside North Korea, which is segregated from the rest of the world, you have to remember that he also runs one of the sort of most infamous cybercrime groups, the Lazarus Group, that were responsible for the 2014 Sony hacking. They are quite a complicated group, and they have been laundering money through casinos, I believe, in the Philippines. I'm not sure. It's a very kind of interesting and intense thing that they're doing in Korea at the same time as a lot of his citizens are starving. It's
That's
very
a significant
interesting.
part, though, right?
I mean, it's all...
I mean, he's not a great leader.
He's not a great leader.
Wherever he's achieving or interesting things about him having large numbers of people starving to death, that's not good, right?
It's definitely not good. But what I'm saying is...
He's got his own girl bands, do you know that?
I don't think he's mad.
He's insane. I mean, maybe it makes sense to have your own girl band, but he's got a harem of like 13-year-old girls in it and so on. And yeah, see, you're coming round now.
No, but I think by our standards, yeah, he might look insane, but I think that by what his standards are, I think he's alarmingly switched on. I think he's manoeuvred himself into a position.
Everyone's
where
switched
he's
on within their own
unassailable.
standards. What does that mean? Of course he's switched on, yeah. Within his world of absolute insanity, he's really with it.
Toppled. He could have been toppled, is my point, and he wasn't toppled. Instead, he
so far, he killed everyone who was going to topple him.
That's the point. But would you be able to kill all the people who were going to topple you?
Yes. Give me a chance.
Blimey. Well, on that revelation that Kim Jong-un has his own girl band and they're all scary spice. I've got to say, after that conversation, I'm really starting to go off the guy. But there you go. Coming up, never meet your heroes, is a 4-day working week on the horizon. What's happened to the Queen's ladies in waiting? And should we be judging the artist, not the art? Some great stories. See you shortly.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel. Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio and online.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's papers, tonight in the company of two of my absolute favourite comedians, Kerry Marks and Diane Spencer. We begin with the Metro, and Donald Trump is passing judgment on Kanye West.
Yeah, he is.
You know you're in trouble, don't you?
So in a moment, Diane's going to tell us that Kanye West and Donald Trump are both sane. Donald Trump brands Kanye West a seriously troubled man, which is wonderful coming from Donald Trump after a bombshell meeting. Everything's bombshell now, isn't it? It's a bombshell meeting of the US presidential election, over the US presidential election.
They should report on meetings where nothing happened.
Yeah, I know. Why not? Why not? I'll just find a different word once in a while. I thought Kanye was just a bit... I didn't like a lot about him. Do you remember years ago when there was the VMA Awards and he went on and it was... And I don't into Taylor Swift stuff, but she just won an award.
Yeah.
And he went up and said that it should have gone to Beyonce. And I just thought that was such an incredibly rude thing to do.
Yes.
I thought something is nasty in you if you're doing that. And of course, he gets in trouble by opening his mouth. But now he's got Donald Trump saying, I help a seriously troubled man who just happens to be black, Kanye West. He doesn't just happen to be black, by the way, Donald Trump. His parents went to some effort to cause that to happen. But Donald Trump described him as a seriously troubled man, and that's just wonderful. And meanwhile, Kanye thinks the problem was that he had jeans on. This just gets better and better. So, yeah, it's two delusional people who don't like each other, which is wonderful.
Well,
but you're going to tell me they're not. They're really sane.
No, do you know what? Trump looks really sane in this.
Yes, he does, yeah.
He really does, because Ye, which I believe is how you say his name, Ye, Ye went to Donald Trump and said, hey, you can be my running mate. You can be my vice president. That
it's wild, isn't it?
I mean, seriously troubled man. Yes, definitely. I hate to say it, but I actually agree with Trump there. If you genuinely think that asking Donald Trump...
It's bold as hell.
Bold? That is insane. That's more nuts than Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un would find him insane.
Yeah.
Well, the bromance is over. Let's go to The Guardian now, and a shorter work week could be on the way, Diane.
OK, so this is interesting. So 100 UK companies have signed up for a 4-day week with no loss of pay. Now, obviously, there's many benefits to this. It's all run by something called the 4-Day Week Campaign, I believe they're called. Now, I had a look at the list of companies, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of the companies were mainly those kind of companies that you would do through a computer. Like, most of them were kind of digital things. They were marketing. They were sort of consultancy. There were a couple that were in construction, which was interesting. And the whole idea is that they're pushing that, oh, it's better for you. You can do your life admin, you know, and you can just generally have a better state of being. However, I do wonder how this would translate into other realms. Like, if you're going to have a 4-day week, does that apply to teachers? Does that apply? Because teachers need to do life admin. Does a 4-day week apply to bus drivers and train drivers? Because the train drivers don't really like what's going on right now, and they're striking. They're pretty much on a 1-day week anyway. So I just wonder, plumbers, right?
Yeah.
Plumbers on a 4-day week. I mean...
What do they do now?
It's hard enough getting them to turn up now. So if they then got a 4-day week, oh, that's my day off, love. Is it? It was your day off last week.
Well, I know a plumber called Big Steve. He does a 1-day month. Yeah. And it's never the month we're in. The issue is that you're absolutely right. It's only going to work, isn't it, Diane, with those industries in which your work can be done in fewer days.
Yeah, and that your work maybe doesn't, like, other people don't have to seriously rely on your work. Like lorry drivers, they have to drive a certain amount of time, but they're restricted to the amount of time they can drive for safety reasons, and they have to cover a certain distance.
Yeah.
And if you say, well, let's take those hours down, how can they cover the distances? So, yeah, I mean, it's a great idea, and I think it will provide a lot of wondrous days of, oh, let's go for a sauna. Why not? It's the first day of our 3-day weekend, every time. Like, because everybody goes nuts on a bank holiday, don't they? Everybody gets really, really drunk. And
well, that's the issue, isn't it, Kerry? I suppose
the idea is that they come in more enthusiastic for the 4 days rather than the 5 days.
Yeah,
but,
and you're more
if it works, if doing a 4-day week and you get more work done actually becomes a thing, that's going to be so unfair on everyone in all of history who's done the 5-day week and now realise that they've been had. They've been doing an extra week for nothing.
Well,
they've wasted that day. But actually, what's not good about this is, first of all, they're coming into our world here. We comedians do a 4-day week, you know, and we're not going to have other people doing that. And also, sometimes, and also,
humble brag.
Also, the worst day for comedians is a Saturday because we're working in some town on Friday. You can go and get food, get lunch, and it's easy. Saturday, there's queues everywhere. I am totally against this. Well, I should actually use. I don't really like saying the word comedian on this show, you know, because we're doing some serious stories, and bantering around and stuff. And whenever you talk about comedy, someone is going to write on Twitter going, "You're not a comedian, that wasn't funny." And then they'll put afterwards something like, "The world is flat," you know, and that happened after one of the things I mentioned on here, I think. I was talking about the world being round and someone got very angry about it. I think no, it's not okay. It's not okay. This is comedians' world, and they should stay at work so we have the Saturday and Friday, the weekdays to be able to wander around, get a coffee without queuing.
Diane, I think you've done a few office jobs in the past. I have too, and there is a lot of nonsense in offices, isn't there? So you've got things like people put their jacket on the back of the chair and then disappear for like a 2-hour lunch break.
Yeah.
They walk around the office pretending that they're going to do some photocopying. They look like they're really busy on their computer, but if the boss can't see what's on the screen, it's normally eBay or Facebook or Netflix.
And suddenly you always go to a different floor for some reason when you want to go to the bathroom because it takes you like a little bit of a longer walk.
Yeah.
You go to the furthest coffee shop rather than the closest one. Yeah, there are a lot of office shenanigans. I see what you're saying. You're saying that maybe...
Get rid of all that.
And you're saying that, like you want to be like Elon Musk. You want people to work intense hours for the time that they're there. You want them working intensely.
I think 4 hard days rather than 5 easy ones.
Yeah, and plus, don't you find that people...
No, I think they should work 6. I'm going with 6 now.
Don't you want 7, really? Check out
really
anyway?
Do.
Like, you don't really check into your office job till, like, midday on Monday, and then you check out by midday on Friday anyway. Yeah. So that's already a day gone.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure, and I know that there are plenty of people that watch this show who work bloody hard in the office 5, 6, 7 days a week. And in that, I salute you. Now, moving on to the Daily Mail. And don't you just hate it when you see paintings of white ableist men? Kerry.
Prestigious exhibition charting the history of world medicine is axed, like everything is now, after 15 years because it contains racist, sexist and ableist theories. It's called the Wellcome Collection. It's named after Henry Wellcome, which is turning out to be an unfortunate name for him because his Wellcome exhibition is not welcome in the modern age. It said that Wellcome, who was born in a log cabin in Wisconsin, was a man with enormous wealth, power and privilege. In other words, boo, colonialist. Doesn't say boo colonialist, I've added that. Thousands of objects with the aim of better understanding of the art and science of healing through the ages. It says the items include wood, sorry, I'll put the words in here, colonialist wood, colonialist ivory and colonialist wax from around the world. So, and including Charles Darwin's walking sticks, which were probably colonialist walking sticks, and all colonialist things have to go right now. There's a medicine man in there. There's a picture, though, with the medicine man exhibit with a photo showing Henry Wellcome dressed in indigenous people's clothing behind, which that used to be a compliment at one point, didn't it? Just like eating their food and wearing their clothes and saying, hey, I like your culture. But now it's not. So this has to go because now we are decolonialising art and everything, maths, whatever we can do.
What do you think about this? Because I take my kids to the museum and there are so many disclaimers and apologies for British history wherever you go. Why can't we just look at a steam engine and admire what it actually is, which is a feat of engineering, given the fact that lots of bad things happen in the past all over the world?
Yeah, it seems very strange to me that this is happening in a museum.
Yeah.
Because surely a museum is the place where we're supposed to do it. Now, they pushed the statue into the dock in Bristol, right? And then they pulled the statue out, they repaired it, and they said, we're going to put it in a museum where we can display it in context and we can add context to it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So now you're taking it out the museum? Do we shove the museum in the dock? Like, to me, this is where we should have all of this information so people can go in and make their minds up. I'm not sure why we're so scared of people being educated.
Yeah.
And making up their own minds and seeing what happened and just learning about the history. There's not a problem in learning about history.
Yeah.
I don't think.
And why would you want to gloss over it? And what we're going to have soon is an exhibition that will just be some middle-aged white man saying the word shame over and over again, and then everyone go, that's fine, we're there.
That's Fringe show. Be good.
Yep, definitely. Let's get to Monday's Independent. And the ladies in waiting are no longer waiting. In fact, they've gone. Diane.
Yes, so Queen Consort Camilla replaces traditional, quote, ladies in waiting with, quote, companions. How lovely.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, she's going to have 6 of them. I hope she names them after, like, some of the reindeer, you know, like Cupid, Donna, Blitzen.
One of them's bound to have a red nose. There's always a drinker in the group.
I sincerely hope so.
It's like Bridesmaids, isn't it?
They all need to dress differently. Or they could have, like, because there's 6 and then Camilla's the 7th, she could, like, dress in white, right, which is all the colours combined, but then they could have a colour each, like Power Rangers. So, yeah, as you can tell, I'm taking this
some thought.
So seriously. Essentially, Camilla's just got some people helping her out with what she needs to do because she's the Queen Consort now and she's not calling them ladies in waiting, she's calling them companions. I don't see a problem with this. Makes sense.
It's great news for ladies in waiting who would rather be called Queen's companions. For whatever reason. I mean, I don't want to even second guess, and I can't imagine the female politics that's going on and who gets to be the main Queen's companion and who's the second companion and whatever their roles are. Is there a hierarchy, do you know? Is it like you get to change her dress or you get to help her on with the crown or whatever?
Sweetie, there will be a
there will be. Bound to be.
There will.
Always. If we know the sisters. Kerry,
do you get gentlemen in waiting?
Yeah, apparently so.
Do you get gentlemen in waiting? I've never heard the expression.
Oh.
Have you?
No, I've never considered that as a career option. Kerry, I'm delighted to say your lady in waiting is outside in a breeze, so get a move on. Let's crack on. We've got one more part of the show where we delve into self-love, vegan cats, and the upcoming Cormageddon. See you shortly.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Welcome back to the final part of Headliners. I'm Mark Dolan, and with me looking at tomorrow's papers are the brilliant comedians Kerry Marks and Diane Spencer. The Metro now with a sign of end times, the end of the curry. Diane.
The cost of living, quote, Cormageddon could shut 9,000 curry houses for good. So, data released by the Office for National Statistics in October details how essential supermarket items have risen by 2/3, and obviously this is having a knock-on effect to people who cook in the hospitality industry. And they're saying that now 3,000 curry restaurants have gone under. Now, Jeffrey Alley said this. His family founded the British Curry Awards, and he said that a quarter, 3,000, have gone under since 2007. I thought 3,000 curry houses going under, so that means that there's 9,000 curry houses in the UK. I know this sounds weird. Does that sound like a lot to you?
No, not that really. Not me, really.
Does it?
Not for this country.
Not considering that back in the day there was one in every town.
Yeah. And also, it's such traditional after evening food, isn't it? After drinks, it's either a kebab or it's a curry, isn't it? So you'd think there would be a lot more of them.
Yeah,
it's 9,000. A very good point.
Seems like
You're right.
a small amount.
What I love about curry houses is they never really close, do they? I mean, they close down, yes, but they never like close.
No, they're ready. That's what they're
very
same with the kebabs. They've realised where their market is.
You go in at 3 a.m, you're like, do you mind if of course, and then they start polishing the plates. Out comes the Cobra beer.
Yeah.
But this wonderful, great tradition is under threat, right?
Well, it is under threat, but at the same time, we must remember that there are some curry houses that think it's OK to charge £5 for a portion of rice. Now, I think if you've
comeuppance, this is comeuppance then.
Yeah, I think some curry houses may need to
brought this upon themselves with their rice prices.
Well, my criticism is that they need to rethink the menu a bit. I think that 70s formula of chicken tikka masala could do with freshening up.
Yeah, that is a very good suggestion.
It's also this is to do with, like, they're saying it's because tomatoes and onions have gone up at a 20% increase, but surely then we should really be hearing about why is this curry house not Italian restaurants? Because everything is tomato, right? It's like Italians, apart from carbonara, they have nothing to offer that is not. They love that tomato in a way that's disgusting. Really, it's painful. What did they eat? What did they eat before the tomato?
Well,
just carbonara all the time. And one day the tomato turns up, and they're like, "I love that. I'm going to put that in absolutely everything."
Before tomatoes, they were all just like lying down, feeling a bit sick from another carbonara. Because nobody's ever felt good after a carbonara.
No, they haven't, no.
You can't even say it anymore, carbonara.
Try the carbonara again. It's just that one dish for the people who don't like the tomato. You go, well, you're having the option.
The carbonara is that one dish for people that don't like food. Let's have a look now at the Daily Star with a story highlighting why influencers may be bad people. Kerry.
Wild animals dressed up and used as pets by influencers who abuse them for likes. So what this is social media. Obviously, there's been this one-upping thing that's been going on for ages of what else can we do to get more likes. And for a while with Facebook, we had all the cats and dogs. There was non-stop cats and dogs, cute cats and dogs. And that became a great pressure on the psychology of cats and dogs who were like, we can't compete with this anymore. How can we be even funnier than the last cat or dog? And so now, and of course, if you look on TikTok, there's loads of cute kids stuff. Which, I don't know if you watch those, but they make you want to have a kid for a few minutes and then realise that it only worked for that one take, and then you see all the desperate ones where a child just toddles and they've gone, well, you put that up because you don't know that all children toddle when they're that age. It's totally uninteresting. So now it's come to people adopting pets and trying to get animals to do anything cute, and they're taking bigger and bigger risks, like, you know, getting a crocodile to lick your face and the odd chance that it might make some funny noise or whatever it is. So and basically the animal advocate groups are saying they need to stop this because some of the examples here are contents including putting tigers on leads, making lion cubs wear nappies, which I don't think you'd want to change that nappy, really.
Not wise.
So that's it, really. It's just pretty bad animal abuse.
You can always report it. That's the thing. It's on social media, and they're doing it for the likes, and they're using wild animals, which should not be treated in this way. Wild animals are being kept as pets and then paraded around on social media sites. So if you are using social media and you see somebody who seems to be owning a lion cub or a giraffe or something like that, you can report the post and
now,
take it into your own hands.
Yes or no answer, because I've got two stories in 30 seconds. Cat owners place their feline pets on vegan diets. Vegan diets for pets, yes or no, Diane Spencer?
No, definitely not. Don't be silly. Like, I don't know enough about the vegan diets on the pets, but it just says in my soul that it's not correct.
All the videos when they smell the vegan sausages and then they go and eat the real thing, they're not stupid, are they? Kerry, expert reveals why healthy selfishness is the way to function at your best.
This is one of those, this is self-help book stuff, isn't it? It's full on, apparently... if selfishness was considered bad, and now she's saying it can be good at the right times. It's good to be a bit selfish, which we've all known forever, that sometimes you have to be a bit selfish.
Yeah, but you don't have a selfish bone in your body, Spencer. Whenever you come here, you bring treats for the team. You're very giving.
Oh, well, it's nice to be... It's lovely when people smile, isn't it?
Nice to be nice. Can I thank the brilliant Kerry Marks and Diane Spencer. Headliners is back tomorrow at 11, and I'm back on Friday at the earlier time of 8 p.m. See you then. I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. There's never been a more interesting but also critical time in British politics, and I can't wait to bring you the biggest stories of the day with the best factual accuracy and also a few of my own opinions thrown in. We'll engage in passionate but always polite debate with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12 on TV, on radio and online.
A museum in London accuses itself of being racist, FIFA allow rainbow flags at the Qatari World Cup, and a Cambridge College dean claims that Jesus was transgender. This is Free Speech Nation. Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Andrew Doyle. So this is a show where we take a look at culture, current affairs and politics. Plus, we keep a track on the bizarre antics of those social justice activists who kindly provide us with enough content for a 2-hour show every week. Coming up, I'm going to be talking to Eric Kaufman, Professor of Politics at Birkbeck College, about a new report which suggests almost half of young people think that Britain is structurally racist. I'll also be speaking to political YouTuber Maya Tusi about the bravery of the Iran football team and supporters at the World Cup in Qatar, who have been sending a powerful message to their government back home. And feminist campaigner Kelly J. Keane will tell us about how she has been threatened with arrest after being reported for hate crime at a rally in Brighton. And political and cultural commentator Ella Whelan will be here to discuss a potential conflict between disability rights and the right to an abortion. But before we get on with all of that, I'd like to welcome my lovely panellists for the evening. I have comedians Sajila Kershi and Francis Foster. How are you both?
Very well, mate.
Francis, you've been touring. Stand-up touring.
I've been doing my tour up and down the country. It's been really, really enjoyable.
Oh, yes?
It's been a lot of fun. We've got 2 shows left that I'm doing with Leo Kearse.
Ah, yeah. Leo Kearse, who's normally here.
He's normally here.
Leaves.
Yeah, he normally actually sleeps on that sofa over there.
Doesn't he? Yeah.
So we're doing a show in Leicester on the 20th and Stafford on the 21st.
Amazing, fantastic. Sajila, how have you been?
I'm OK. I will be touring next year.
You?
Yeah, I'm going to New Zealand and Australia with a new show.
Blimey, international.
Yes. Free speech and rah-rah skirts.
Very nice. So, yeah. Is that the title?
No, I dreamt the title.
Oh,
so
okay.
I thought I had a dream, and actually it's all fitting in nicely because then it's about the culture wars.
Yes,
and,
very good.
And saw a sort of like topical thing coming up on Facebook, and they were wearing a rah-rah skirt. I thought, oh my God, it's my dream.
OK.
So there you go, yeah.
So it's all happening. It's an omen.
It's all happening, yeah.
Wonderful.
Still writing it.
Fantastic. And you brought me some seeds.
I have. Nigella seeds, and they're called Kalonji's seeds, and they literally cure everything apart from death.
OK. Because I had that this week. Not death. I didn't have death. I had COVID this week again for the 3rd time. And you say that this will... And I'm not 100% yet, but you say this will...
Oh, it's amazing. Mixed with turmeric, cinnamon, and garlic if you can stand it, but I know you don't really like.
I don't mind it. I don't mind.
Vampire.
Great. Oh, by the way, I'm negative, so we're all okay. We're all fine. Just in case the audience were getting a bit nervous there. But thank you for that, Sajila. We're going to get some questions from our lovely audience. We're going to start with a question from Colin. Where is Colin?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Colin. How are you?
Hi, good. Should we have to start paying to use the NHS?
OK, so there's a report in the Times this weekend which pointing out that in the Republic of Ireland, patients are being charged for things such as doctor's appointments and hospital stays, up to 50 quid a time. Should we be doing that?
Well, I think the question we're really asking ourselves is, does the NHS actually work for the ordinary person? And the reality is, Andrew, I don't think it does.
What do you mean by that? Do you mean because you have to have endless queues, because you can't reach anyone?
Because of all of those things. It's impossible to get a GP appointment. You have to wait months in order to go and see a consultant. The entire system seems to be clogged up. The reality is it's not working at the moment, so that's what we're mooting, is to pay £50 in order to inject more money into the system, and hopefully being able, once they get more money into the system, they'll be able to invest in more doctors, nurses, GPs, etc.
Well, shouldn't that be coming from the government, though? I mean, isn't it their responsibility?
Well, Jeremy Hunt actually pledged even more money for the NHS. I mean, the problem is the NHS at the moment is a bureaucratic black hole which just seems to suck more and more money into it. And look, and that's not to denigrate the work the nurses and the doctors do. My girlfriend was actually had to have a pretty major operation on the NHS. The staff were incredible, but it was so obvious that they were overstretched.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, though, Sajila. I kind of feel, what is the alternative? I'm a big fan of the NHS. If you go to America, if you're poor and you get sick, you're in trouble. You just die, basically.
We don't want that here.
No.
And having used the NHS quite a lot in the last few years, I've seen the good, the bad and the ugly of it. So it's not like a simple matter of, I mean, you know, waiting times, if you go into A&E is appalling, as you just mentioned, about like doctors trying to get a doctor. But when it's good, it's really good. They literally saved my life. However, they've also given me a lot of distress. And I think that's based on individuals that work within the industry. And also, I would agree with you that bureaucracy is really where the issues are.
Is that where most of the money is going?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
But, you know, you've got to admit, though, Francis, it's a much better system. I mean, I saw this documentary in America about the American healthcare system. There was a terrible situation where a man had sawn off accidentally 2 of his fingers, and he effectively had to decide which one he wanted sewn back on because he couldn't afford both, right? And that, to me, is just horrible. But, you know, I use all my fingers. I don't want to be faced with that kind of choice.
I mean, look, it's a very good point, and the American system is obviously awful and we should avoid it. And I am not someone who's calling for a private or an American or an insurance-style system. I just think we really need to be honest and just admit that what we have at the moment isn't fit for purpose, and it needs reforming of some sort.
Yeah,
and you don't need to take... I'm sorry, but you don't need to Sophie's choice with which finger or which testicle to lose. Do you know what I mean? That's
no, I mean, you don't want to be in that sort of situation.
You don't want to make that decision. That's why the doctor makes it, right?
Yeah. I don't know. We're going to move on to another question now. We've got a question from Peter. Where is Peter?
I'm here, hi.
Hi, Peter, hi.
Now, what action do you think should be taken against the London Fire Brigade?
OK, so there's been this report this week, and it's gone viral online because the London Fire Brigade, it's been found to have a toxic culture that allows bullying and abuse. It's been told that it is systemically racist, misogynistic. I mean, pretty damning report overall. So is this, Sajila, is it a problem of a sort of institutional systemic thing? Or is it that there are bad apples within the service? You know, I always wonder about this kind of thing. Because if there's a system in place, that implies that there are rules in place that make it racist, make it misogynistic. Or is it just there are bad people attracted to
I don't know, because this seems to be coming up quite a lot. We've got it in the police force. And so it's...
What, the misogyny element?
The misogyny, you know, the racism. We've had that kind of come up before. There's been lots of, you know, kind of things said that lots of institutions are institutionally racist. But with the fire brigade, I guess because it's such a dangerous job that they do, and they, you know, and it should be celebrated what the work they do. Same as the police.
Yeah.
That sometimes I wonder if like what is gallows humour or what can go too far, and what then becomes like banter, but it's actually quite offensive.
You wonder about that, don't you? Those sort of dangerous jobs, you can imagine that kind of humour, that's the way people deal with really, really scary situations.
We don't risk our lives, but our
This is the hardest job in the world to do. This is tougher than being a bomb disposal expert. You've got to be kidding.
Brain surgery.
What I do is absolutely immense. Go on, Francis. Do you think it's just gallows humour? Do you think actually, you know, is it more that the officials, the people in charge, haven't been doing enough to crack down when there are these issues going on?
I think the answer is, Andrew, to cancel Fireman Sam.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
it's all about Fireman Sam.
It is, you know, like, he's just a symbol of a patriarchal, cisgendered white man, and we need to get rid of him.
You know, you say that, but there was an article a few years ago about how Fireman Sam was putting women off joining the police force because they don't feel represented. But do women really mistake real life for cartoons?
No, actually, I know Will Fryer women.
Yeah.
They are stunning, beautiful, and kick-ass, and everything else. But they do face these things, and they have said that they have
They're not
faced
upset
misogyny.
about Fireman Sam. They weren't going to not join.
No, they're not going to join because of Fire and Sam. But I do think
credit them a bit more, more toughness than that. Right?
I think women are joined because they think they can do the job, and quite rightly they should be allowed to do the job. But I can see where that misogyny and that racism comes in. That kind of it's just like the army. Any institution like that, I think it's going to have its problems. I think it's naive of us to think that we're not to whitewash it over literally and say, oh no, racism's not real. You know, we've fixed it, we've cured it. Yay!
I don't think anyone's saying that, are they?
No, but there is a tendency to think, oh come on, we are a welcoming country. However, there are still pockets of this going on.
But I think we should leave Fireman Sam alone.
Leave Fireman Sam alone.
Let's leave him out of it. We're going to move on to another question now. This from Catherine. Catherine. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Andrew. Should we close museums if their collections are not considered woke enough?
So this was a mad thread that was put out the other day. I noticed this, I retweeted this, is from the Wellcome Trust. And the Wellcome Trust have form on this, right? Because the Wellcome Trust a couple of years ago, they pitched an event, they publicised an event aimed at Womxn, W-O-M-X-N, not women, because apparently it's Womxn, I don't know. Or is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. So they have clearly a kind of weird ideological bias. But now they've said they're going to close one of their permanent displays. And this is a display called Medicine Man. These are objects relating to sex, birth and death. All of them were collected by Sir Henry Wellcome, where you get the name Wellcome Collection. And that was in the late 19th century. But the museum now says that this portrays a version of medical history that is based on racist, sexist and ableist theories and language. Is it anything to do with the fact that he was, around in the 1800s?
Well, that might be to do with it, because if you look back at people's behaviour in the 1800s, they were pretty racist, they were pretty sexist, and they were pretty ableist.
Isn't there an issue, though? Isn't a museum supposed to sort of preserve things from the past? It sounds a bit like they're upset because they've got old things.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like.
Why can't you just say it's old things? I mean, you know my stance on this. I don't believe in cancelling history, because history is really important. We can't just erase all this. And I always think, who benefits from this ultimately when we erase all this history?
But isn't it weird? Because it's a museum. It's a museum saying
that's what it's for.
People in the past had different attitudes. Well, surprise, surprise. A 10-year-old child could have told you that. Why is a curator of a museum thinking it has to shut itself down because someone in the 1800s said something that we don't find acceptable? It's weird.
But also in the 1800s, I don't think that we had, did they understand what racism was? Was there that a word? Was sexism a word?
They had completely different
ableism. They wouldn't have had that. So it's history. Just report history as it was. It's in a museum. That's where we expect to find these things.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it because it's going to trigger someone? What is it? Why is this happening?
It is pretty nonsensical, isn't it? They've even, so there was a sign up in the Wellcome Collection saying that they've reserved a space in a pavilion for collective healing. So if people going to the museum are upset or traumatised by seeing artefacts from the past, which, let's face it, if you go into a museum, you're probably going to see a few of those, you can go to this space, have some collective healing and sort your life out. What's going on there?
Do you know what it is? And I noticed it because I actually went to the British Museum to an exhibition on female goddesses and divinity. And what happened was, so they had the artefact, they had where they found the artefact, the history of the artefact, and then they had a female comedian explain why this artefact was, why you should find it interesting from a female point of view.
OK.
And you just saw, number one, this is deeply patronising, and number two, it's ridiculous. What's going to be the next step? Have the Elgin marbles explained to you by David Beckham?
Yeah. It is an odd one, isn't it? What I find that's happening now, whenever I go to an exhibit or something, there's always a sign-up sort of lecturing us about why we should find it offensive. And I find that really weird, by all means put something in historical context. But I don't need to be. I don't need that explained to me. It's very
I don't know. I think I need that. Sometimes I don't know that I need to be offended, and I need that reminder.
You don't get offended enough, Sajid.
No, I know.
You've got to get with it.
Oh my God, I feel so guilty. I haven't been offended, and nobody put a sign up, so it's not my fault.
You should be offended by the words and actions of people who've been dead for centuries. They're the people we really need to target.
I know, dead people.
They've been getting away for way too long. These dead people. I'm sick of them.
But it's not. It's not just that. It's also as well that we now need. We've got this weird desire to project our own morality onto these people and our own ways of viewing the world. There was this ancient Hindu goddess in this who was a kind of a shapeshifter. And, sometimes she appeared as a woman, sometimes she appeared as a spirit, sometimes she appeared as a man. And they went... And then this podcast, the comedian went, I see this goddess as they, them.
I doubt the goddess used pronouns incorrectly.
And I think that's not only quite offensive for historians, but also I think for Hindus who probably don't want gender ideology being projected onto their gods.
It's a weird kind of arrogance when we impose our own obsessions onto every facet of the past. I mean, I find it bizarre.
Yeah.
Very interesting, though. We're going to move on to another question now, and this one is from Catherine. This is Catherine with a C. So last time we had a Catherine with a K, now it's Catherine with a C.
It's qualification.
Yeah, you see, diversity, that's what it's all about.
Are you pleased FIFA backed down over rainbow hats and
they did,
flags?
didn't they? Yeah, FIFA... So, as you know, the World Cup's going on in Qatar, which is about my limit of my knowledge of what's going on out there. But the sports governing body, FIFA, they've been angering fans with their treatment of those who wanted to display the rainbow symbols, the LGBTQIA plus symbols, or whatever it's called now. And fans at Wales' opening match against USA, they wore rainbow bucket hats and flags. These were confiscated. Then FIFA reversed course, and now they're saying, no, you can wear the rainbow stuff. So where are they standing on this? Because isn't it illegal? Don't they kill people for being gay in Qatar?
Well, yeah, you get. I think it's up to something like 6 years imprisonment.
Oh, that's all right then.
Yeah, which is fine. You know, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think we've been obsessing about this fact when we've been obsessing about it, and it's obviously awful. But we don't mention the 6,500 migrant workers who actually died building the stadiums.
Right.
We don't mention the other aspects of Qatar's appalling human rights record, and more importantly and pertinently, we don't challenge FIFA enough for actually giving them this tournament.
Yeah. So why are we in Qatar? Like, I mean, isn't it weird? I mean, they have a terrible human rights record.
I know.
Why do it? Why even go there?
I know, why go there? But I don't know if you remember the few weeks here on this show, I said we should all do passive-aggressively, all wear rainbow outfits in order to and play, you know, Kissed a Girl and Gay Bar and all the songs there.
Those songs.
But the thing is that is a protest. But it's FIFA not,
saying no,
not Qatar.
Right.
So Qatar probably don't even know what the rainbows are about. So they wouldn't have known. So it would have been a nice thing to do. But why are FIFA getting offended again? Someone getting offended on somebody else's behalf.
Is it that FIFA are nervous that if they allow this sort of thing to go ahead, then they will get kicked out or they will cause trouble with Qatar? Or...
Get them kicked out, because that might actually highlight what's going on there. You've all been paid already. It's not like it's a big deal. Why go there in the first place? But I agree with you. It is a hypocrisy, because it's not just a Qatar. We still do, sports events in other places which don't have great human rights, kind of record.
Yes.
And actually, I think Iran showed more courage by what they did, by not singing their national anthem, than we did. And I'm ashamed of FIFA, actually.
Yes, I mean, but this is an interesting thing. It's the double standards of the thing, isn't it?
It's the double standards of the thing, and it's also, as well, like, no one really cares. It's really... it's really easy to stand up for, equality, diversity in Islington in North London amongst all your woke mates, right? But then when they were asked to wear, the rainbow armband, Harry Kane wanted to do it. He got threatened with a yellow card and then he backed down. Yeah. Which I think, if you'd done that to Gandhi, the same thing would have happened.
Well, but this is it. It's protest comes with a risk. Yeah. Right? So, when Gandhi was doing his sort of peaceful non-resistance, he knew he was going to get hurt. Yeah. That's the point. There's a risk that comes with it. If you're like, oh, no, I might get a yellow card, so I better not do it. I mean, come on, man up.
Well, yellow is part of the rainbow.
There is that, exactly. Yeah, okay.
I suppose maybe they were just going to add more cards and create the rainbow.
But the hypocrisy, Sajida, I mean, we've talked about this on the show before, that, when you get these corporations flying the rainbow flag in Pride Month all over London, London is awash with it. And then you go to their Middle East equivalent website and there's no flag there. I wonder why. I mean,
that's
it's so
fear. That's
pathetic.
fear, though. That's really sad that you're scared of what you might lose as a result.
Yeah, but it actually means something in those countries.
That's what I'm saying. It means something, so do it there,
right?
Because show some backbone.
Absolutely. Well, we've got another question now. This is from Michaela. Where is Michaela? Hi, Michaela.
Hello, Michaela.
Is it Michaela?
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, wow.
The question is, could Jesus have been transgender?
Could Jesus have been transgender? Actually, it's Jesus. I think, well, look, I don't know. What do we think? I mean, no is the answer, but this is the dean of, where is it, Trinity College, Cambridge?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Cambridge.
so Cambridge University did a sermon, or invited a visiting speaker to do a sermon at Evensong in the chapel, and the speaker talked about how Christ had a trans body. But did you see the reason? I mean, it was that there was a wound in the image of Christ, and they said that this had connotations of female genitalia. It's a wound.
Yeah, but it's a wound in not the right place, so they haven't done biology either.
No, clearly.
Your vagina's not there last time I looked.
Is it an obsessive need? Again, we go back to what we were talking about with the Welcome collection, of imposing current vogues, current trends, current obsessions onto things where it just doesn't fit.
Yeah, but there's sometimes when you go back into history, it makes sense. Like, do you remember when they thought that Jesus was black, and it made sense because it's in the Middle East? You know, there was some logic behind it. This has no logic. This just happens to be what's the zeitgeist now, and we're going to take it back into biblical stuff, and actually offending people on the way. Because I mean, I'm
really
not,
upset some Christians.
Yeah, and it is offended Christians, and I think, you know, fair enough, free speech, that's what we're kind of standing for, but you haven't really thought this through, and whose agenda are you going by? This is just to fit in the narrative, like, or perhaps to recruit trans Christians, like, you know, perhaps to get them on the cause. I wonder why they've gone...
Well, I mean, I wonder about this. I did read a book when I was a kid called The Sacred Virgin and the Holy Whore, which was a conspiracy theory book that said that Jesus was a woman. And, you know, I was young and stupid, so I bought it. But it's actually, when you read it again, it's a load of nonsense. But is it just this idea of kind of a revisionist approach to history? So, Francis, to give you an example of this, so a lot of trans activists will say the Stonewall riots were largely organised and perpetrated by black trans women. It's not true. It's lesbians and gay men. But they say this totally revised history, even though you pick up a history book and you can see it's not true. And in a way, what they're doing is trying to reclaim and say, well, look, these figures have always been prominent in society, and therefore that helps our cause today. Is that what's going on there?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's going on. It's just laughable now. It's almost come to the point where it's beyond parody.
Well, it is a joke. It's like the Globe Theatre saying that Joan of Arc was non-binary, or Queen Elizabeth I was non-binary, because if a woman shows any kind of strength or independence or moral character, she can't really be a woman, can she? I mean, that's really what's behind a lot of it, right?
Exactly, and it's deliberately misinterpreting, you know, the speeches of, for instance, in that case, it's Elizabeth I. Whereas I think if you said to Elizabeth that she was non-binary, once she'd actually understood what non-binary meant, she would probably have you executed.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And rightly so. OK. Have I just called for execution on TV? Oh, well.
I mean, that is currently fitting with your persona at the moment, Andrew.
Why not? Anyway, we're going to have to go to a break on that. I've got a meeting with Ofcom. After the break on Free Speech Nation, Professor Eric Kaufman, who has been carrying out some research. And this is a fascinating poll which says that almost half of young people think that Britain was founded on racism and continues to be structurally racist today. So he's going to be here to tell us a lot more. Join us in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narendra. I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GBNews.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other pay-per-review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Welcome back. An important report for the Policy Exchange think tank has suggested that a lot of young people are being taught fashionable theories as uncontested fact. So the report says that a majority of the age group 18 to 24 believes, quote, that schools should teach students that Britain was founded on racism and remains structurally racist today. The research was carried out by Eric Kaufman, an academic at Birkbeck, University of London, for the Policy Exchange think tank, and he joins me now. Eric Kaufman. Welcome. Great to be here. Good. Eric, can you talk us through this study that you've done for the Policy Exchange Unit? What are your key findings here?
Well, yeah, so there is this narrative that, you know, all this talk about indoctrination in schools and critical race theory is kind of a right-wing plot, moral panic. It's not really happening. You know, just actually the other day, John Bercow here was saying, oh, it's greatly exaggerated. And that's kind of the narrative that we're getting from the left and even parts of the center. So what I wanted to do was say, we'll do a representative sample of 18 to 20-year-olds and ask them about what they were taught in school. So this is a random draw of young people. And what we find is actually a majority of these young people are getting critical race theory and critical gender theory in their schools. So this is a fact. You can't deny this is a random survey. We're talking about exposure of millions of people to this.
This is something I don't understand, because when Don't Divide Us, the group that proposed liberal values and anti-racism, they looked into this. They had freedom of information requests across many, many schools and borough councils, and it turned out that critical race theory is deeply embedded. Why do people keep denying it? Well, they're just lying, aren't they? At this point?
It's a combination of lying or not wanting to know. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Now, what they did with DDU, a lot of those schools didn't answer the FOI.
Right.
And then a lot of people said, well, you know, the council was recommending these materials, but the schools aren't teaching them. Again, it's just nonsense. But what I've done is actually talk to the pupils.
Well, you've been looking at young people, exactly.
1,500,
yeah. Do you have any specific findings? What are the attitudes that young people have, say, towards structural racism or the concept of gender identity ideology, this kind of thing?
Well, yeah, so let me run you through a few questions just to give you a sense of this, right? Yeah. So is Britain a racist country? 61% of the 18 to 20s would say yes. Now, if we ask a question like, should J.K. Rowling be dropped by her publisher? You know, they split evenly between yes, she should be dropped and no, she shouldn't, compared to if you take the 50-plus population, it's 85% no, she shouldn't be dropped, and only 5%, whereas amongst the young people, it's 50-50.
Can they, I mean, I know the survey probably didn't go this far, but can any of those kids justify that position? I mean, you know, if you have like half of them saying J.K. Rowling should be dropped by her publisher, can they explain why? Because there isn't really a reason, is there?
Well, I think they would probably just say, oh, she's transphobic or something. You know, right. I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of thought going into that other than she has offended a marginalized group.
So the point there, though, is that is indicative of indoctrination, isn't it? Because there is no logical or legitimate reason for saying she should be dropped, so it is just a mantra at that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, well, if your value system is such that any sort of emotional offense caused to a marginalized group is the most important thing.
Yes.
And free speech then falls down, truth falls down below that, then, yeah, it makes sense, of course, if that's what you believe, that this is the most important thing in the world. Now, what I would say is they're getting that mainly from social media and celebrity culture. I mean, the schools are reinforcing and not challenging. So 7 in 10 of these young people said this stuff was taught to them as more or less fact.
Now, that's a surprise, isn't it? Because, you know, a lot of this stuff has been accelerated over the past 10, 12 years. And in all that time, a Conservative government has been in charge. So Conservatives say they're fighting a war on woke. It would seem to me they're pushing it.
Well, what they're doing is they are essentially turning a blind eye while the what I call cultural socialist left, more or less takes the field and indoctrinates this stuff in schools. So they are simply saying, oh yeah, we're doing something about woke. Look, we've set out some guidelines about what, you know, you're not allowed to teach BLM, but you can teach anti-racism and you can teach that Britain is systemically racist and systemic racism is a thing as part of these consensus values. So they haven't gotten serious about the problem. So no, I would say even though we've had this Conservative government, a lot of them are embarrassed, they're cowardly, they don't understand, so they're not doing anything about it.
That latter point, that they don't understand, is that what's going on here? Because, you know, if you ask the average person, you know, do you think teachers in schools should stand up against racism? Everyone's going to say yes. And schools have done a really good job and do a really good job of when racism occurs, tackling it, challenging it. Right. But that's not what this anti-racism teaching or ideology is. It's the presupposition that every human interaction has racism at its core and that all white people are complicit in white supremacy, whether they like it or not. That's a huge leap from just challenging racism.
Right, but you see what they've done is they've expanded the definition of racism from what you and I would understand it to mean, which is what you just mentioned, to this big ideology that you can have this free-floating racism without any actual racism. I mean, so they're pushing this ideology under the cover of this term anti-racism.
So is that
smuggling that in?
The politicians and the various people in charge just don't understand. They just hear the phrase anti-racism and they think, great, we're opposed to racism.
Well, partly that, partly they're scared, because if they're against something that says anti-racism on the tin, they're scared they're going to be accused of being a racist. And also, they just don't care enough. I mean, they care about economic management. I mean, the Conservative Party is full of essentially business liberals. They don't really care about culture, most of them. And so they're going to let the woke in the schools and the institutions, civil service, NHS, go to town.
But it's very myopic, isn't it? Because if you think about what this might mean for the long term, if educational institutions, which are meant to be about the production of knowledge and truth, if they no longer value objective truth, but instead value lived experience instead, then that means we're going to end up with a future generation that doesn't understand the importance of truth and, of course, free speech.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Conservatives have convinced themselves that somehow, oh, well, once they get a mortgage and they have families, they'll all start voting Tory. In fact, that's just garbage, because if we look at the survey data, it's all about their cultural attitudes that's driving their voting. It's not about whether they have a mortgage. Are young people that have a mortgage and are paying tax, are they more likely to vote Tory? Not really.
Well, they're not going to be able to afford a mortgage, are they?
Well, even if they have a mortgage, it doesn't matter. This is not a material question. It's about a mind virus that they've absorbed through social media and celebrity culture and at school, and that's shaped who they are. So it doesn't really matter what material circumstances they're in. And so I think the Conservatives are really deluding themselves. And I would predict, once this generation comes of age, becomes the median voter, the Conservatives will be relegated to a kind of natural party of opposition, like in Canada with the Conservatives. They'll get into office occasionally, but they're going to be a natural party of opposition.
But, you know, thanks to your report and with other work by Don't Divide Us in various groups, we do have now incontrovertible evidence that these ideologies are being peddled in schools. Is this not the equivalent of suddenly deciding that all UK schools need to be religious in nature and that we need to teach some sort of cultish worldview as though it were fact? And isn't that a majorly serious problem?
It is a huge problem, and it is just astounding how sort of the Tories are on their watch. I mean, they're just letting this happen. Whereas if you look at other jurisdictions, you look at Ron DeSantis in Florida, or even there are periods like in the Ontario Conservatives in the 1980s in Canada, they said, oh, we're going to teach about Mao and the Cultural Revolution and the gulags. And they changed the curriculum. I mean, you can actually do that. But this government has simply not been interested.
So am I wrong to be optimistic about young people? It's just that when I give talks at various universities, a lot of the young people who come and want to be challenged, they come along and talk to me afterwards. I don't get this sense of young people trying to shut everything down, you know? Maybe that's just because I'm not interesting enough to shut down, but, you know, am I getting this wrong?
I think you are, but you're probably getting a selection of people coming to you. I mean, so if you look at, the opinion in the round, as I said, 60% saying Britain is a racist society. There was a survey, 60% think that universities should be protecting people from speech more than allowing free speech. Yeah, I think that the modal default programming that they're coming to university with already, I don't think the universities are doing that much. It's actually the schools, celebrity culture, etc. They are coming to university, with this cultural socialist mind view.
Saying that, when Helen Joyce gave a talk at Gonville and Keyes College in Cambridge, there were academics sort of, well, let's be honest, lying about her and what she said and encouraging students to protest and try and drown out her words with noises and drums and blaring horns and all the rest of it. So it is to an extent coming from ideologically driven academics who are more activists rather than academics.
Yeah, definitely. So what I would say is the activist academics are influencing the schools, are influencing the wider culture.
Yes.
I don't think that in class most students are becoming indoctrinated. I think they're already, so in the report we can see that even people who haven't attended university, they're taking a year before they attend university, they are as woke as the people that are at university. So I don't,
Okay.
but and a number of studies have shown this, they're already programmed by the time they step onto the campus.
Can I ask, though, I mean, I'm still in contact with a lot of teachers. I used to be a teacher, and they do send me messages of training sessions they have to sit through, unconscious bias training sessions with all the evidence tells us achieves absolutely nothing, but they're still going ahead anyway. Various lectures about white privilege or gender identity ideology. And what's clear from the people who contacted me is that they're afraid. They're scared to say, we don't believe in any of this. Because if they do that, it's not necessarily they'll be fired, but they won't get promoted when the next opportunity comes up, right? Is that what this is about?
That's partly what it's partly about people being scared, but it's also partly about people seeing this kind of velvet glove around the iron fist that says anti-racism or anti-transphobia and thinking, you know, how can you be against that? It's just so nice, and I'm a caring person. So for example, amongst academics, university profs, a majority of them will support these diversity statements being mandatory before you can apply for a grant or be accepted into a job. You have to sign up to this DEI religion before you get it. It's totally politically discriminatory. Or they'll support these decolonization of reading lists, this agenda, right? So there are a lot of people who are going along with it because it sounds nice and they think, you know, I'm a caring person. And, so I think that is the bigger thing. I think there is fear as well, but I don't think fear is the main thing. I think there's a lot of true belief.
Is there also a financial incentive? It's quite big business, isn't it?
It is a big business, but again, I think all of those things kind of follow on from the fact that this religion is believed in by a lot of people, right? And so I think this has just become dominant in the culture. Once something becomes the dominant belief system, it drives, people who are after status and money and all of these things, it starts to pay to virtue signal that belief.
So we're out of time, but Eric, I do want people to be able to see this report for themselves because I think it's a very important report. Where can people find it?
Yeah, so if you go online and just sort of Google Policy Exchange Culture Wars, you should be able to find the two reports. Download them, and if you don't have the time, just read, the first page or two of which has the bullet point summary.
And the next time that someone says critical race theory is a right-wing myth, they can lead it to, they can direct
These
it to
are the facts. I mean, if people think that that's not true, then do another study and show me I'm wrong.
Fantastic. Eric Kaufman, thank you very much indeed. And after the break on Free Speech Nation, we're going to be hearing about how the Iranian football team and supporters have been using the World Cup to show their distaste for the country's regime. See you in a minute.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio and online.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something good happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak.
Stop talking. My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere. Amazing! You see, amazing! You remind me of the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel. Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful. Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Andrew Doyle. Later in the show, I'm going to be turning agony uncle with the help of my wonderful panel, Sajila Kershi and Francis Foster, and we're going to help you to deal with your unfiltered dilemmas. So, if you have any problem whatsoever, just email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk and we will do our level best to answer all of your issues. So, it's been an emotional week for the Iranian footballers and supporters at the World Cup in Qatar. Ahead of Monday's game against England, the team stayed silent during the national anthem as they offered their support to the protests which have swept the country since the death in police custody of Mahsa Amini. It's feared some of the players could face reprisals for their silence when they go home. And when Iran were back in action against Wales on Monday, some players mumbled their way through the anthem while the fans booed and jeered at the regime. So here to tell me some more about the protests, I'm pleased to welcome the political YouTuber and commentator, Maya Tusi. Thank you very much for joining me today. So this is real bravery, isn't it? I mean, we talk about the various protests, taking the knee, rainbow flags, that kind of thing that footballers here do. But there's something really at stake when Iranian players refuse to sing the national anthem, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. And it goes beyond that, which is quite interesting, because whilst it's absolutely brave, as you mentioned, obviously they will be facing consequences, or their families in Iran. So when during the first game they didn't sing the national anthem, absolutely brave. But for the Iranians in Iran, as a culture, they're not into virtual signaling. And for them, while they still acknowledge that that's brave, they actually said about the players, you don't need to do that. You shouldn't have gone to be in a position to not sing the national anthem. So for them, even that was too gimmicky. But of course, the second game, they were forced.
But is there a unanimity on that point? I mean, I would have thought that some of the protesters in Iran at the moment would be quite happy with any kind of support on the international stage.
But that's interesting, because obviously, from my position was initially, I was told, well, maybe we should just boycott it, or the Iranian players should boycott the whole World Cup. But then I realised, actually, no. Even though the second game they were forced to mumble the national anthem, the way I see it now, while some Iranians in Iran are angry that their players are still playing while people are getting killed, in fact, the longer they stay in the World Cup, the more attention they're going to actually draw.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking about it right now. Yeah, I mean, exactly. So just to give us an update on the Iranian protests, so obviously there was the death in custody of this young woman by the morality police, the group that called themselves the morality police, because she wasn't wearing the hijab properly or the covering properly. And this has led to this huge revolution, really. And it's gained momentum in a way that previous attempts at these kind of things haven't, you know. You've got now lots of men are involved, lots of people are against the regime, they're very open, they're not afraid. I mean, you see a lot of these women talking online about how they're not afraid anymore. They've seen their friends killed and beaten, but they really want to see this done. Do you think this is something that might actually lead ultimately to regime change?
It's not just that they're not afraid, they've actually lost the fear completely, which is quite abnormal for any human.
Yes.
Because we always have fear in our blood. And so this Mahsa Amini, 22-year-old who was killed, this kind of was a spark for something that's already started. This uprising, essentially, the movement started in 2017. And then it was what I call is a cost of living revolution. It wasn't really political. and then 2019 got bigger. Then COVID happened. There was a bit of a pause. So essentially, subconsciously, the nation was waiting for any excuse, a spark.
Yes.
So when Mahsa Amini died, it wasn't like plans. Oh, well, she died, let's just take advantage of her death. No, it wasn't that. It was just so organic.
It felt like an eruption of emotion, and you know, people are. It's interesting that this has come from a feminist background, because women are sick of having to cover their faces, their hair, which they didn't have to do before the Iranian Revolution. This is a relatively new thing, and people say it's just a cultural difference. Well, no, Iran doesn't have this history.
No, and right now, literally all classes, all ages, and all genders, everyone's out.
Yes.
But it's led by a younger generation, and by younger generation, I'm talking Generation Z, like the kids.
Yes.
But the interesting thing about them is that, one, the Persian culture, well, all Iranians, from Persians to Kurds and Turkish, they have this coincidental similarity with the Anglo-Saxon kind of mentality, which is they do symbolism, but not really virtue signals. They're not woke. So all this stuff that you see that, you know, to protect women,
yes,
it's not for some sort of third-wave feminism, the kind of nonsense. They don't want to be affiliated with any of the kind of globalist movements. But the reality is that some of the chants is that, well, they're all out, but the younger kids say, to the Shah, the previous Shah, we're sorry, and to his son, the Crown Prince in exile, come back. And it's not like that, you know, they all definitely want the king back. It's more of a kind of asking for forgiveness, that we made a mistake. They actually say that our parents made a mistake, we will fix it.
Well, I mean, you see a lot of young women dancing, which is against the law, burning their